back to the Love Letters to Virginia podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa Pasmino. Today we're in Hampton, Virginia with Alicia and Dennis from the Deep Roots Greenery. Thanks for tuning in.
Hi, I am Alicia Billisiers. I am one of the founders of Deep Roots Greenery. We have actually been open now for barely a week now. Saturday would make a week, so a couple days really. But we've had some great success so far.
Hi, I'm Dennis Bougie, and I am also one of the co-owners with Alicia.
All right, so he was telling me a little bit about how you got started.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not from here originally, you were from Philadelphia, is that right?
Well, he's from
Yeah, so
Philadelphia.
I'm from Atlantic City.
Okay.
It's about 45 minutes from Philadelphia, but spend a lot of time in between. And then you're from?
I'm from Chesapeake.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm actually from Virginia, yes. And after going into the Air Force, I moved to Hampton. So then I was in Hampton for like 5-6 years, and now we're in Yorktown.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And did you start by opening a space, or how did this business grow?
So we actually started in the Yorktown market.
Okay.
It's a beach market that happens every Saturday in Yorktown. And we started there. It's a pretty short market. It's like 4 hours, 8 to 12. And really we started there just to see if we would actually like gain any traction, like just to see, is this like viable, you know? And it was a lot more successful than we thought it would be very quickly. And I guess we didn't really realize that like so many people love plants. So yeah, it was, you know, more successful than we thought it would be.
Excellent. So I know a lot of your accessories here are locally made.
Yes.
How did you come upon those local artists?
So I will say we got really lucky. We got lucky, but I think that a lot of Virginians like to be a part of something, and I think that's the great part about Virginia is that there are so many creative people here. All you really have to do is ask around or just spark the conversation. So most of the people that work with us actually reached out to us. So that's the cool part about that. We have, you know, I think he already told you maybe, but like handmade macrames. One of the mural on our cash register desk right here is actually made by a local artist as well. And, you know, the shelving is obviously made local because we made it. So there are a lot of pieces. Even this table, this like raw edge table that we have, like this was actually given to us by a carpenter in Yorktown. And yeah, so most of this is genuinely the community. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite area in Virginia?
My favorite area in Virginia, oh gosh, it's all over the place. Because Virginia, I tell them all the time that Virginia is such a melting pot. Because there are some places that can feel like Georgia and other places that feel like this is the nation's capital. I love Northern Virginia because it's so close to DC. I love DC. I feel at home in DC. But I guess I think I would have to say like Northern Virginia. Yeah, Northern Virginia, because it's such a melting pot of people, even more so than here. So
they have such good food.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
So what's your favorite plant?
My favorite plant. My gosh. See, when people ask me this, I don't even know what to say. Because I like different things about all of them. And we tell people that like plants have personalities and plants are people too, because it's almost like, I guess an analogy for it would be people from different cultures, right? Like eat different food, you know, like to, you know, do different things. So I think that's kind of sort of how I look at plants because they're from different places. It's almost like they're people from different cultures. And that's kind of sort of what I like about all of them. But I will have to say, the most look at me plant that I love, of course, is the Monstera.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
Like I was explaining to you earlier, the Song of India is my favorite plant. It grows into this beautiful, whimsical tree that reminds me of the Horton Hears a Who tree. And I was never a plant person when we first started. But once we got our website up and going and we figured out how to do shipping, I shipped myself a Song of India just to test it. And when I got it, it was like I just fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And then that kind of projected me into becoming a father of 1,000 plants. So.
So what would you recommend as someone's first plant if they've never done a house plant
As
before?
someone's first plant, I would recommend, as far as ease, I would recommend a ZZ plant. Extremely easy. You only have to water it once a month. But it still looks hardy. It still looks as though you've been taking care of it, I guess, if that makes any sense. It's still a juicy looking plant, if that makes any sense. Still full of life. They're actually native to West Africa. And to me, they're the best. I would say they're the best because they don't require a whole lot. They're very neglect tolerant, and I've never heard of anyone killing one.
Awesome.
I will say, usually a lot of customers that kind of come to us, they're either new or they're crazy. But either way, a lot of people always ask for recommendations, and we like to set our customers up for success. So even if somebody who has never had a plant before, who can start with something as easy as a snake plant, or one of the Xerographica air plants that are really difficult to kill, they just want to be left alone. I always recommend them buying something that calls to them. Like if they see something, don't be afraid of it, because I refer them to our website that has care instructions on it for all the plants. And so we like to set them up for success in that if they ever feel like they're having issues, we've had plenty of customers DM us on all the social medias and even through our website. So I like to just tell people, I would recommend, if you're really nervous, snake plant or, the ZZ is fantastic, but go with what calls you and we'll try to help you and set you for success.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true too.
I love it. You're one of the only plant businesses in the area that will do shipping.
Yeah.
That's definitely nice.
Yeah, we and that comes from that really comes from the lack of the market space within the local area. Like we have such a transient military and people are constantly coming and going into in and out of Hampton Roads from all walks of life. And so we found out that people will always support, like Alicia always says, people will remember how they made you feel.
Yep.
What was it? What was that?
It's like Maya Angelou.
And so we wanted to make a space, not just a physical location where people can love plants and be safe, but if they were to go somewhere else and they still wanted to support, if they wanted to send plants to their family who lives in Colorado, because I know places like in the Midwest, there's not a lot of plant shops outside of the standard home stores. We wanted to make we still want to give an opportunity to people who want plants and to send plants. So it's kind of where that came from.
I love that. What was your first plant?
My first plant was a rubber tree. It was a little tiny thing. Or at least my first significant, this is my plant, and I still have it. It's 11 years old this year. And it is about my height, so it's 5 foot now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. What are some of your goals for the next 5 years with this business?
Some of my goals for the next 5 years with this business is really to grow with the community. We have a lot of plans for this business, but really we want it to grow with the community and the community to grow with us. We realize that so much of the community, as far as creative and artists, have poured into this business, and I think our biggest thing is to make sure that we can give back to that same community. That especially here in Hampton, this community doesn't have a lot of outlets like this. So we're hoping that it also inspires other people to start businesses that inspire creativity, that are all inclusive, and that's really the main start of where we want to go.
Very nice. So So I have one last question for you. I like to ask everyone this.
Okay.
How do you recognize someone from Virginia?
That's so funny. Oh my goodness. I don't know. I don't know because Virginia, like we said, is like Virginia is such a melting pot. Let's see. How do we recognize somebody from Virginia? Well, you know, because you're not technically. Okay.
So I'm from New Jersey,
Yeah.
right? I will say that when I can recognize, when somebody, I may not recognize them like, oh, you're from Virginia, but when I find out they're from Virginia, I usually almost say, oh, okay, that's about right, because they usually, like, almost everyone that I've met have this unique, like, spark to them. There's always like this like unique form of like artistry, and not like, and it could be like any form of artistry, written, poetic, music, painting, or whatever it is. Almost every person from Virginia that I've met has some form of appreciation of art in some form or fashion, and that's kind of how I can always say, oh, that makes sense.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
I have no clue. I'm from Virginia, so I really have no clue. I think, okay, let me think about this, because I have run into people who are from Virginia while I was not in Virginia.
There are a lot of phrases that
There are definitely phrases, but there's something about, I don't know, I feel like people from Virginia can be kind of, I guess, calm, cool, and collective for the most part. Like am I wrong? from what I can remember, right? So I went into the military. I had to go to Texas for training and blah blah blah. And I met some people who were from the area, and I was like, oh. And then and now to think back at it, I'm like, all right, well, how were they? What kind of people were they? Well, they were kind of calm, cool, and collective. Like there wasn't really a whole lot that you could do to like get them out of their character. So I guess maybe that's what it is.
strong character.
Yeah, they have strong character. They're very solid people emotionally for the most part.
That's accurate.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Do you have any last messages you'd like to leave the listeners with?
I don't know. Come by. All are welcome. Please come as you are. This is an all-inclusive space. We'll be starting classes soon. So once we get that together, please come by. Take a class, take an easy care class, a terrarium class, and have a margarita.
Nice. Oh, how can we find you?
You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, as well as TikTok now.
Awesome.
Just search Deep Roots Greenery and we should pop up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So how did you two end up deciding on your space?
So we actually did not want this space at first. We did a lot of work on this space. We actually had to like open up the room, break walls and things like that. But we actually wanted the space across the street, which now we realize was a little too big, probably a little too big for what we truly needed. But the space across the road is really interesting. It actually still has a brown placard stating the history of that building. The history of that building is that it used to be a all whites lunch counter where no people of color could come in and could sit or anything like that. And there was the first sit-in in Virginia at that building, at that lunch counter by students from Hampton University, at the time Hampton Institute, because of what it was called back then. It was that small. And that was actually the first time that anyone had done a sit-in in Virginia, and that triggered the rest of sit-ins in Virginia going forward. So the next one after that was in Richmond, in the capital, and then it was just like a rolling hill after that. So yeah, Hampton Institute students made history over there. And we thought, how cool would it be to have that be a Black-owned business now? And unfortunately, no, it's not us, but there is a Black-owned business there. They actually opened on Sunday.
Yeah.
It's a beauty bar by an esthetician named Shelly. So you guys go over there, look at the placard, and get your face done. Yeah. So this entire area has so much history. And really what we thought too is that, regardless of what that placard says, chances are this was probably an all whites, business or facility of some type once upon a time. So I think really all of these Black owned businesses being here is really breaking ground. So
I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.
yeah, of course, absolutely.